And before I finish, I'd like to take a small look at our ecosystem, at the SciPy ecosystem, the Python ecosystem, which I absolutely love. And I run a little analysis looking at the number of PyPy downloads. It's easy to grab them. You can grab them on Google BigQuery. And looking at how it's distributed. Okay, so what I'm plotting here is the number of PyPy download sorted. Okay, so that's why it's going down. And what you see, and this is a log-log plot, and what you see is a fairly common pattern, is that a small number of packages are used by many people and vice versa. So you have a 1/f distribution. It's something very universal. It can be explained by things like preferential attachment. And these are a few packages that we know. So the most downloaded package is simple JSON. That's interesting. And NumPy is doing extremely good, by the way. So if I'm interested in neuroimaging machine learning, so I'm interested in NiLearn, I'm basically relying on a bunch of other packages, like Joblib, Scikit-learn, NumPy. They're basically my foundation. So that creates issue. A few months ago, pip was broken for 6 hours. And some people went crazy, because some people were using pip to instantiate their production service. And so there was a crazy GitHub thread where people were basically arguing. Not too bad, actually, but it's interesting to look at it. Another example is leftpad. So leftpad was a small library to pad strings left in JavaScript. One day, the maintainer pulled it out of the Node packaging manager, and it basically broke the internet. So those core libraries are important. If they break, everything breaks. And so David Cox is a really cool neuroscientist at Harvard. And he says that invention is 90% sorting out the dependencies. So we as technologists think, yes, this is a technological problem. I can solve it, and I'll do a better package manager and all this. One of the big problems is that you have many packages that play together. How do you ensure that they're correct when they play together? And it's a problem I have. There's a new NumPy update. It's very hard for me to guarantee, even though we have 95% test coverage. It's still very hard for us to guarantee that it's still correct. So that's one reason why in the packages that we maintain, we worry hugely about backward compatibility. Because if you break backward compatibility, then you end up in this gridlock of dependencies that are irreconcilable. Another fun consequence is that people do not want to upgrade. So in response to WannaCry, right, WannaCry was this horrible virus that basically led to a huge loss of money and data in many companies. So in response to WannaCry, this company installed a second antivirus on all desktop, but didn't upgrade Windows. That's quite clearly wrong, but we need to face it. Users hate upgrading. It's a fact. And we need to do it. We need to solve this problem by basically making upgrading smoother. So one thing that we can do is we can, forget about dependencies and say, I'm going to build a big monolithic package. And that won't work, because scaling is extremely hard for two reasons. The first one is that complexity grows as the square of the code base. And the second one is that user support also grows. So all the major packages of the ecosystem are crumbling under user support. And it's much harder to develop in them. So before I finish, I'd like to claim that core software is infrastructure. Everybody uses it every day, so we tend to know it here in the industry and education and research. But I've realized that people do not know it outside of technology. Think about it. There's a high likelihood that ICBM's missiles run open source software. I'm not kidding. I was sitting in the train with a guy working in missile technology in France, and at some point he revealed that they were using OpenCV. So it needs maintenance, just like roads need maintenance, because when they break, everything breaks. And last year, we had a breakage in OpenSSL, which underlies basically security on internet, so security in banks. That's very expensive. The problem is that central packages are boring, hence they're understaffed and underfunded. And I would push you to read this fantastic report by Nadia Iqbal, which is called Road and Bridges, that makes the analogy between roads and software, and that goes deeply into sociology of open source software, how it's used, how it's maintained, or the excellent talk by Ether Miller.